Let's explore the remarkable life of George Orwell, one of the most influential writers of the 20th century. His real name was Eric Arthur Blair, though he chose to write under the pen name George Orwell, a detail that has been asked in exam. The name itself came from the River Orwell in Suffolk, a place he loved, and this inspiration has also appeared in exam. Orwell was born in India in 1903, where his father worked for the Indian Civil Service. He was later raised and educated in England, a biographical fact that has been tested in exam. His education took him to Wellington, then Eton, where he was taught by none other than Aldous Huxley, long before Huxley became famous for Brave New World. After leaving school, Orwell joined the Imperial Police in Burma, a job that exposed him to the abuses of colonial power. These experiences later shaped works like Burmese Days. Returning to London, he spent time working as a journalist, private tutor, and even a bookseller, all while refining his voice as a writer. From early on, Orwell became known for his lucid prose, sharp social criticism, and unwavering commitment to political honesty. He spoke out fiercely against totalitarianism and supported a humane form of democratic socialism, two positions that have been mentioned in exam. He believed that literature could never be separated from politics and that clarity of language was essential for clarity of thought. As a young writer, he published his earliest pieces in college periodicals, slowly developing the style that would later shape his major works. His life took a dramatic turn when he fought and was wounded in the Spanish Civil War, an injury that worsened his lifelong health issues. His experiences there became the subject of his powerful memoir, Homage to Catalonia, published in 1938. During the Second World War, Orwell worked as a journalist for the BBC, writing and broadcasting political content. But it was Animal Farm, published in 1945, that finally brought him widespread fame. This short allegorical novel, written in the form of a fable, exposed the corruption of revolutionary ideals. The year of its publication has been asked in exam, so keep it in mind. In his final years, despite battling severe illness, Orwell wrote his masterpiece 1984, published in 1949, another year, repeatedly asked in exam. The novel introduced a set of unforgettable ideas and neologisms: Big Brother, doublethink, newspeak, and the concept of thought control. These terms have appeared often in exam questions, and the adjective Orwellian, which describes authoritarian control of truth and language, has also been highlighted in exam. Orwell's non-fiction was equally influential. His 1933 memoir Down and Out in Paris and London, his 1937 study The Road to Wigan Pier, and his essay collection Why I Write from 1946 have all been tested in exam. One of his most famous essays, Politics and the English Language, criticizes the decay of clear writing. In it, he lists several bad habits, including pretentious diction and dying metaphors, and these specific examples have been asked in exam as well. Another notable piece is Lear, Tolstoy and the Fool, an essay that examines Tolstoy's surprising hostility towards Shakespeare. Even this essay has been featured in exam questions. As a novelist, Orwell demonstrated astonishing range. His major novels include Burmese Days from 1934, A Clergyman's Daughter from 1935, Keep the Aspidistra Flying published in 1936, Coming Up for Air from 1939, and the two towering works that secured his reputation, Animal Farm and 1984. All of these publication years have appeared in exam, so it's helpful to remember the sequence. Throughout his career, Orwell explored themes of politics, language, class, culture, freedom, and truth. His writing holds a mirror to society, showing how political systems shape everyday life. His influence remained strong long after his death in 1950, so strong in fact that the Times ranked him the second most important British writer of the 20th century in 2008. Today, Orwell's work continues to resonate in political debates, media discussions, and cultural commentary across the world. His insistence that truth must be protected and that language must remain honest feels more urgent than ever. His legacy stands as a reminder that literature can challenge power, defend freedom, and illuminate the human condition. Let's take a quick journey into George Orwell's Animal Farm, a novella published in 1945 and widely regarded as one of his greatest works. The book is a sharp allegory of the Russian Revolution of 1917, and that political parallel has been asked in exam. Orwell uses the small setting of an English farmyard to retell the collapse of the Tsarist autocracy, the rise of the Bolsheviks, and the tragic way Joseph Stalin ultimately betrayed the supporters of the revolution. Another point that has appeared in exam: the brilliance of the book lies in its use of fable conventions, where animals stand in for real political figures. The pigs represent leaders like Lenin, Trotsky, and Stalin, and this symbolic connection has been asked in exam. The animals rebel against Mr. Jones, who symbolizes the Tsar, and that connection has also been tested in exam. Orwell wrote the story toward the end of the Second World War, when the Soviet Union was still being praised for its victories, and this timing has appeared in exam. Because of this political climate, he struggled to find publishers. Big names like Gollancz and Faber rejected the book, and Jonathan Cape backed out after being influenced by a government contact. Yet, once it finally appeared, the novella became a runaway success in England in 1945 and in the United States in 1946, marking the beginning of the Cold War and the breakup of wartime alliances. At its core, Animal Farm follows the story of an animal rebellion inspired by the wise old pig, Old Major. The animals dream of an equal society and overthrow the humans, believing they can run the farm themselves. Characters like Napoleon, Snowball, Boxer, and Squealer soon stand out, and this list of key figures has been asked in exam. The pigs introduce the 7 commandments, including all animals are equal, a line that has repeatedly been asked in exam. Each commandment was originally clear and strict, and every one of those commandments has appeared in exam, from whatever goes upon 2 legs is an enemy to no animal shall wear clothes, no animal shall drink alcohol, and finally the foundational rule, all animals are equal. These commandments are later simplified into the famous maxim, 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, a phrase that has also been tested in exam. One of the turning points is the windmill debate. Snowball argues for progress and modernization, while Napoleon opposes him and finally drives him off the farm with violent force. After Snowball's exile, Napoleon rises as the supreme leader, tightening his control and enjoying luxuries while the other animals face harder lives. Through clever propaganda, Squealer constantly rewrites history and even alters the commandments to justify Napoleon's behavior. The most heartbreaking moment comes when Boxer, the loyal and hard-working horse, is betrayed and sold to the knacker. His fate crushes the hopes of the remaining animals. By the end of the book, the pigs begin walking on 2 legs, drinking alcohol, and behaving exactly like the humans they once overthrew. The final twist is the reshaped commandment. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. This closing line, too, has been asked in exam. Through this short and deceptively simple story, Orwell exposes how revolutions can be corrupted, how leaders can twist language to maintain power, and how ordinary individuals can lose their freedom without even realizing it. Animal Farm remains a powerful warning about political manipulation, ambition, and the fragility of equality. Let's step into the bleak and unforgettable world of George Orwell's 1984, one of the most powerful dystopian novels of the 20th century. Orwell's book is often described as a dystopian social science fiction novel, and this classification has been asked in exam. It was written by George Orwell and published on the 8th of June 1949, a date that also appears in exam questions. The novel examines themes that feel disturbingly relevant even today: totalitarianism, mass surveillance, and the harsh regimentation of human life. And these themes themselves have been tested in exam. Orwell modeled many aspects of the novel on Stalinist Russia and Nazi Germany, both of which served as warning signs of how political systems can manipulate truth and crush individuality. The story unfolds in the year 1984 inside the massive totalitarian state known as Oceania, and that setting has been noted in exam. Oceania is ruled by the party led by the mysterious figure known as Big Brother, whose authority is absolute. Big Brother's presence has also been mentioned in exam, so keep it in mind. The party controls reality through two ruthless tools, Newspeak and Doublethink, both of which have been asked in exam. Newspeak limits the range of thought by shrinking language itself, while Doublethink forces citizens to accept contradictory ideas as equally true. The party reinforces its power through slogans such as "War is peace" and "Freedom is slavery", and these slogans have repeatedly appeared in exam. Surveillance dominates every aspect of life. The thought police track rebellious ideas before they even turn into actions. And the chilling posters that proclaim "Big Brother is watching you" serve as constant reminders of the state's domination. This slogan, too, has been tested in exam. Our hero, or rather, our everyman, is Winston Smith, an outer party member whose job is rewriting history at the Ministry of Truth. His work forces him to alter political records, erase inconvenient facts, and replace reality with whatever the party demands. That role of rewriting history has been asked in exam as well. Yet Winston secretly longs for honesty, humanity, and freedom, feelings that place him in dangerous opposition to the party. Winston's quiet rebellion grows when he begins a forbidden love affair with Julia, an act that has also appeared in exam questions. The two rent a small room above a shop in the neighborhood of the proles, the working class people who live with slightly more freedom. For a moment, Winston believes he can resist the party's suffocating control. He even grows curious about the mysterious brotherhood, rumored to be fighting against Big Brother. But the party's grip is far stronger than he imagines. Winston places his trust in O'Brien, an inner party member who pretends to be sympathetic. In reality, O'Brien is a party spy, a detail tested in exam, whose true purpose is to identify and destroy thought criminals. Eventually, Winston and Julia are caught and taken to the dreaded Ministry of Love, another fact asked in exam. Inside the ministry, Winston's spirit is broken through relentless torture and psychological manipulation. His resistance collapses completely when he is taken to room 101, the chamber where each prisoner is confronted with their deepest fear. This terrifying room has appeared often in exam, so it's worth noting. Faced with his worst nightmare, Winston betrays Julia and screams, "Do it to Julia," a line that is frequently quoted in exam questions. By the end of the novel, Winston is released back into society, but he is no longer the man he once was. The party has destroyed his independence, stripped away his humanity, and replaced his emotions with obedience. In the novel's chilling final moment, Winston realizes that he now loves Big Brother, and even his relationship with Julia has turned into emptiness. This tragic acceptance, too, has been noted in exam. Orwell's 1984 remains a warning about what happens when truth becomes a political weapon, when privacy disappears, and when power operates through fear rather than freedom. It's a novel that continues to echo through every generation, reminding us that the greatest danger is not just losing our rights, but losing our ability to think for ourselves. Let's look at one of the most revealing autobiographical essays of the 20th century, George Orwell's Why I Write. It first appeared in the summer 1946 issue of the literary magazine Gangrel, and this publication year has been asked in exam. The editors, J.B. Pick and Charles Neal, had requested a group of writers to contribute short reflective pieces on their craft, and Orwell responded with an essay that still feels remarkably honest and insightful. Orwell begins by recalling his earliest attempts at writing. He talks about composing little poems, short stories, and even imaginative narratives about himself when he was just a child. These memories show that the urge to write wasn't something he adopted later in life, but something that was already forming at a young age. From the very first paragraph, he makes it clear that writing is never a simple or purely technical activity. For him, it is tied to personality, memory, and the desire to shape the world through words. The heart of the essay appears when Orwell identifies 4 fundamental motives that drive all writers, and this classification has been mentioned in exam. Interestingly, he explains that these motives don't stay fixed, the proportions shift from person to person and even change within the same writer over time. Yet, the 4 motives provide a powerful framework. The first is sheer egoism. According to Orwell, most writers genuinely want to appear intelligent, to be talked about, and to be remembered after death. They hope to get back at all the slights of childhood, all the moments when they felt ignored. Orwell admits this is not attractive to confess, but he insists it is true. Serious writers, he adds, are often more vain and less money-driven than journalists. They crave recognition more than financial reward. The second motive is aesthetic enthusiasm, a term that has been asked in exam. This is the writer's love of beauty, the rhythm of a good sentence, the pleasure of well-chosen words, the joy of shaping something that simply sounds right. Orwell notes that not all writers feel this motive strongly, but even those with limited artistic sense have at least a trace of it. Without some aesthetic delight, no one would stick with the long labor of writing. The third motivation is the historical impulse, another point that has appeared in exam. This is the urge to see things as they are, to record facts truthfully for future generations. Writers driven by this impulse want to fix reality in language so that it cannot be distorted or forgotten. They see writing as a form of documentation, a way to preserve truth as accurately as possible. Finally comes the motive that Orwell personally emphasizes the most: political purpose. This motive has been asked in exam many times. Orwell argues that no book is free from political bias, whether the writer admits it or not. Even the belief that art should stay away from politics is in itself a political position. He explains that writers often want to push the world in a particular direction to expose injustice, correct falsehoods, or influence public thinking. For Orwell, this motive became central after the rise of fascism and the outbreak of war. He believed that without a political purpose, writing felt empty. Throughout the essay, Orwell returns to an important idea. Writing is never pure. It is always a blend of these motives: ego, beauty, truth, and politics. The exact mix varies, but the combination explains why writers continue writing even when the work is difficult, lonely, or unprofitable. By the end, Orwell suggests that these motives reflect universal human tendencies, not just the special traits of authors. In Why I Write, Orwell offers something rare, an honest, unromantic explanation of what pushes a writer to take up the pen. The essay stays relevant today because it doesn't pretend that writing is noble or effortless. Instead, it shows that the drive to create comes from the most human impulses: pride, curiosity, longing, idealism, and the desire to tell the truth as one sees it.